Back in the day when used to watch an anthology show, be it British or Canadian or American or Australian, whatever country, some of the episodes made sense from a production standpoint. Some didn't really make any sense. Now, Night Gallery, our great series from the early 70s, we've been reviewing here on the channel for the last 3 years. One of the episodes, when I first saw it, didn't really hit any buttons, but maybe what the producers and directors and creators of the episode wanted to do. This is called Marmalade Wine. Now, it is in the second season. It's a two-person play. Really, it's a play, because where it's presented, it looks like an abandoned soundstage, and the weather patterns that are shown, and like what they call when the house is shown, it's kind of a broken set. I'll get into that in a second. Now, according to David Jewell's Night Gallery blog, very important, we quote from on a regular basis, he says, if you're in a stranger's home and make predictions that come true, stay sober. Now, that's what's talked about in Marmalade Wine. Now, the teleplay was by Gerald Friedman, who also directed, with a story by Joan Aiken. One of the few times a female writer was featured on the series, with Robert Morris, of all people, as Robert Blacker, and Rudy Valley as Dr. Francis Deacon. Now, Robert Morris, who has done a lot of modern work in shows like Mad Men, he was in his 80s, was on the show, and Rudy Valley had previously had a triumphant run together on Broadway and How They Succeed in Business Without Really Trying. Now, they are reunited here in a story of a wandering amateur photographer, Roger Blacker, who winds up lost in a rainstorm and finds refuge at the home of Francis Deacon, played by Valley, who was a well-known surgeon, now retired. Now, Deacon, who lives alone in a seemingly remote location, and of course, like I said, the set's here at a high point of the segment. There's a completely black backdrop with most of the stage furniture and props in white, creating a bizarre, futuristic, stage-like atmosphere. Jewell talks about that, and of course, in the Scott Skelton Night Gallery book. Interesting design concept. Set direction is tremendous. Now, the doctor is more than happy for the company and serves his guests glass after glass of marmalade wine. Now, I've never drunk marmalade wine. I would think it would be like watermelon wine, very sweet. Now, Blacker has read about Dr. Deacon, recalling that he was famous for giving breast implants to Hollywood starlets. For early 1970s, it was pretty bold in a plot. He also has another recollection of something peculiar about him which he can't quite summon. Now, perhaps seeking to impress his hosts, Blacker begins with small fibs such as that he's employed as a photographer by Life magazine, and as the wine gradually has a greater influence, his lies become bigger, and he tells the doctor that he has the unique attribute of being able to foretell the future. Why he would bring this up with an older man to impress him, unless there was homosexual overtones, I don't know. Now, he tells Deacon the outcome of a horse race and election result for that day. Like, it makes no sense why he would brag like that. But works within the plot. Now, he eventually falls asleep, heavily drunk, and when he wakens the next morning, the doctor tells him he was correct about both predictions. Stunned, Blacker admits that his talented predictions was all a bluff and that these were mere coincidences. The doctor doesn't believe him or care and asks him to predict some stock positions. Finally, Blacker realizes the doctor has flipped his lid, not allowed to practice medicine anymore, and tries to scramble out of bed to leave. But it's too late for that. Blacker finds he's chained to the bed, and the doctor tells him in the grisly finale, "Don't worry, you'll be very happy here. While you were asleep, I took the liberty of amputating your feet." Now, does that make any sense from a plot standpoint? I don't know. I mean, there's cruelty in Twilight Zone episodes that make no sense, both the half-hour and the hour-long episodes, and in the modern two shows and the Peel version. But it doesn't make any sense. Why would he want to cut off his feet? You can just dope him up and keep him there. He doesn't have to cut off his feet, unless he got off on that. It's never really talked about. Now, this is a mid-length segment of Twilight Zone, and it had Fear of Spiders was part of the big episode, and the Academy, the Pat Boone Goes Evil episode. So there's 4 segments in Junior as well. Now, this segment is a appetitive after the first segment, but the Academy makes up for in part 4. So this is a 4-part episode, 4 different segments. Now, when I say mid-length, it's 12 minutes. I don't know if it's a syndication package. Somebody can follow that up. How can he spend 12 minutes to 23? Now, To many, it falls between black comic vignette and something more substantial, but for many, ultimately unsatisfying. Robert Morris plays it oddly reserved and reticent before he has too much to drink, and Valley is better as the overly gracious but ultimately mad Dr. Host. Now, according to Jewel, they purportedly had great chemistry when they worked together on Broadway, and to him, it was not much in evidence here. Now, Rudy Valley, I learned about him in some old movie magazines back in the day. A very competent actor, and a good stage star. Did he have the plot and set direction because Rudy Valley and Robert Morris were known from the stage? Hard to tell. Now, the plot itself, like you look at it, like, again, I'm bringing back, I've done like the DC Comics horror imprint from the 60s and 70s, and maybe Twilight Zone comic book, maybe that's where they got the inspiration. But if somebody shows up and starts bragging, there should be a monetary payoff. Like, does he think the guy's going to make predictions like that later on? I mean, did he not notice that's kind of strange, this guy living by himself? And like I said, some of the plot elements make no sense, but it's almost like a low-rent method stage play written by a college student that basically got money to be on Night Gallery or Twilight Zone, and they're trying it out. I don't know of any time this is ever repeated with this type of set direction or a plot. Because, like, for example, like Harvey Korman was around in Tim Conway. Let's say this was a comedy version of it, it could work. Basically kind of like a comedic horror. But with this, it's like you're saying, am I on drugs here? What's going on? And like I said, you got to watch it. I watched it 7 or 8 different times, and still I got a hard time. What is he trying to say? Is it a homosexual situation? Is it a monetary situation? It's basically, is it a crazy doctor situation? Like I said, you tell me what you think. Say in the comments what you might think about this. Like I said, it's not a terrible episode. I give it like maybe 2.5 out of 4. But like I said, as a Canadian, knowing our stage actors could do a much better job, and we have, I think you had the wrong actors in something that could have been a good plot, but to me, it leaves you unsatisfied. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's the latest of our second season Night Gallery podcast. We're kind of catching up to the ones we haven't done on second or third season. Please check our channel for all the Night Gallery reviews. Now, if you're coming on this channel thinking that a 7-minute podcast is the full episode, it's not. There's been people dropping comments on and off for 3 years saying, why don't you show the damn episode? We don't want to hear your voice. This is not what we're doing. This is a review. Read the podcast description, the headline, and the bottom. Do not comment on here, because these comments are screened. If you're going to give me bullshit comments, I want real Night Gallery fans or people that want to learn about the Night Gallery. You're more than welcome. But if you're just doing this to be needy and greedy and thinking that I have more power than NBC Universal to show these episodes free of charge, you're wrong. Go on Vimeo, go on some bastard, Eastern European site and get it. But don't leave bullshit comments here, because in an alternate universe, I'm a writer for Night Gallery, and it's in the future, and there's another Night Gallery version. I'm doing a plot on people like you commenting on the old Night Gallery. You see my point. Anyway, thanks for listening to good people, the 99%. Thanks for listening. Have a great evening. Happy Halloween. Bye.